I hit the button. I did. Sorry. My fault. My bad. Cold. Yeah, gee. It's working. It's kind of aspiring. Stinky word. Anyway, and really went inside for a minute. And it's 7 degrees cooler. Anyway, and rain coming. Maybe that's why it's cooler. It might not come. Anyway, okay, I haven't started the video yet. So all this pro-life yammer from atheists is kind of curious. I've sort of been over this, but I might as well go over it again. I mean, for me, the big thing was evolution. Evolution was you were given two stories. You were given this silly God story, and I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense at all. Is there some other story, please? And so I forced them to explain, as best my parents could anyway. There's this idea that, yes, we evolved from animals, blah, 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 blah. And I said, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. And so I looked at nature as a kid, and it was just brutal. And I had the advantage of growing up in the South. And, life is active. Things die fast, and bugs, and just really nasty all over the place. So you really get a vision. You get to see, millions of caterpillars in a tree and that kind of stuff. And so you get a feel for just how death is everywhere. Life is everywhere, but it's death everywhere. And it's spooky. And you don't feel connected to 4-inch centipedes and all this kind of stuff. You don't sit there and have a spiritual moment, relating to nature, water moccasins, and all kinds of. It just isn't there. And then you see the life that you can relate to. And you see it smashed, or with 3 legs, and you see all kinds of nasty bits, worms in its poo, this is just not. This is carnage. Anyway, so I don't know what word I used back then to describe it, to feel it, but it was. I had an appreciation that it was something to fear, something to be wary of. What was your fate, and what was the point? It was kind of also troubling me. Just trying to understand. What am I doing this for again? So I can die. That's another part. I just didn't care for the glib explanations for why I'm going to start something I ain't going to be able to finish anyway, and then I might not finish it in some not good way. So that's the premise. That's where you start from, right? As an atheist. Evolution. As smart adults, we can use more complex words to describe what's happening. Consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction, parasitism. It's all parasites, all exploiting environments to replicate a molecule designed to need to replicate a molecule, to need the activity that will produce the replication, let's say. It's not a good story. And yet atheists are all pro-life. They're all gung-ho. Yeah, let's throw more meat in the grinder. Let's keep turning the handle and grinding them up. And yeah, okay, there's this visceral activity kind of feeling, living. Some days it's kind of splendor in the grass, kind of, like a cat rolling in the sun. We have our moments, of peace and tranquility, but much of our life, especially modern life, is not peace and tranquility. It's kind of grindy and, you're not even allowed to have a headache because, I gotta go to work. There's no, it's got very unyielding, very, very enslaving. And so here's another context, another piece of evidence. I'm just saying, wow, people want to sentence their kids to that. They want to sentence another generation to the grind of the capitalist empire. Feed some more of them to the rich. Have a kid so he can be exploited. No, that doesn't make any sense. So apparently there has been a suspension of thinking at this early stage. People they didn't go as far as I just went walking down that path. They haven't gone that far. That's how deep, their contemplation of atheism has been, of what it is to understand the truth. They've just gotten onto the hayride of the religious kooks, who think we're all going to nirvana or heaven or Valhalla or wherever the fuck. Sure. And they've just played right along with that psychology of optimism and promotion, and yet they have nothing. There's no reason to have any of that. There's no reason to think it's a good idea to get on that ride. But they'll do it because that's, doesn't require any thought. Everybody else is doing it. So everybody else is doing it, so they're going to put on their 3-inch heels and their bell bottoms and prance around because everybody else is doing it. So, and why? Because life has some splendid moments. And there are just moments, and let's get real. It's just isn't most of the time. For most people, most of the time is not a great time. And that's just the truth. And then once like I said, you don't have to know a lot of psychology to, understand that, this mechanism of desire and how it projects into things, how hypocritical our values are. You can reveal it so easily. You can understand it pretty easily. How the cute things, if there's a commercial showing a cute thing dying, versus an uncute thing. Some poor little dog gets mistreated and, gets all nervy and upset and, pisses himself. And everybody wants to adopt it. Nobody wants to adopt the pig they're ready to slaughter. Yeah, no, fuck him. It doesn't take much intellectual honesty to say there's something wrong with that picture. Not much at all. To feel uneasy about what might be going on here. Just how stupid this might be. A little bit of, you think it would humble people at least. You think they would be at least doubtful. They'd be, yeah, okay, you make it some, there's some argument here, and maybe we got to resolve this. Maybe we got to come up with some sort of, theory of function, that goes beyond just saying trite crap like, I'm a Tyrannosaurus. I'll act like a Tyrannosaurus. I'll be the Tyrannosaurus. Or whatever, this whole mentality of survival's all there is, and I will be a survivor and a winner, and fuck you. You can't get thinner and dimmer than that. But yeah, you think that would, even if I imagine myself thinking that my best moments, and maybe even imagining moments I never had, and say, okay, those would be really cool moments, that somehow it'd be worth it. That I could, see, if I was, it's so hard to build a strong optimism in myself, just because most of the, many of the fantasies I might have that aren't just gross sexual things, are going to involve fixing something and, accomplishing things I consider valuable, and not so much, they're not overtly, they're earned out of the struggle. They're victories over defeat. They're victories over failure. And it's a little different than a pure victory, because you'll have a taste for the pain and what it cost. You could say the relief you get having a shot of morphine if you have a broken leg or something. That might be a really nice moment, when the pain goes away. Probably had some moments like that where some horrible misery stops and you have that lovely, it's gone kind of feeling. But you certainly wouldn't bargain for that feeling by having the pain again. Usually the depth of the pain, the depth of the pleasure is, proportional in some respect to the depth of the pain. And I think people don't understand how their psychology has played them in many respects, and that much of their pleasures have been built out of years of loneliness or, much struggle to get to the point where they could feel self-satisfied, that they had to feel unsatisfied first. And and then you look at, there's just so many of these, you look at things, and you could just say, man, they can't even see that. You could just talk about how most people live in horror, squalor. But I was going to mention something else. Most people, strange. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Batteries really couldn't be bad. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I suppose it doesn't matter. It's kind of irritating to have an interruption like that, but cameras are cameras. I was trying to make some point that, there's just so many levels of this, but, it's like the human dysfunctionality thing. You see how most people have some sort of coping mechanism that isn't very healthy. They overeat, or they do some drugs. It's so pervasive to have some compensator to get them through the day. I could even argue that my neuroses of my anxiety disorder is a consequence of me not having, some compensator, perhaps, or not compensating when I needed to. I'm pretty hard to reclaim now. It's been so many decades of, my psychology being controlled, conditioned What changes it likely. Anyway, but yeah, so you can just there's another kind of glaring piece of evidence, that most people, even throughout history, the rich and famous, the kings of this, it all seems quite dysfunctional. Very few people get away with living a sterling life, a clean life. And if they do, they sometimes pay a very high price for that. So, you got to argue what's this all about, all this optimism. So anyway, yeah. So, pool, maybe a little more water. Lovely, lovely, lovely. It just hasn't been warm enough yet. Yeah, the water's a zillion degrees below zero. Very cold. Boy, the color is just, I'm liking it. Lovely color. Lovely. Yeah. How come that's not in the proper hole here? Anyway, till next time. Do my work and such. Cool.